The galactic auditorium shimmered with artificial starlight as laughter rolled across polished obsidian floors. Alien warlords from across the Dominion sprawl lounged in silk-lined exo chairs, sipping crystalline liquors and watching a compilation of Earth's military broadcasts. Images of human troops, gritty, chaotic, primitive, flashed before them. Tanks belched smoke across arid battlefields, soldiers barked orders over loud radios, and aged rotorcraft kicked up dust as they descended into zones marked by nothing but flags and grit. No energy weapons, no armor symbiosis, no orbital support. To the Dominion, it was farce. A relic world still swinging clubs. Commander Vrel-Tak stood at the center of the projection ring, unmoved by the spectacle, but pleased by the effect. Tall and plated in onyx armor, his movements were smooth, deliberate, like a blade gliding through smoke. His twin hearts beat slowly in his chest, steady with assurance. His record was unblemished. 42 planetary subjugations, each accomplished with surgical cruelty. He had never failed. Not once. He lifted a clawed hand, and the projections stopped mid-frame, freezing on an image of a human special forces team breaching a derelict structure, smoke curling from their rifles. "This," he said, his voice like sand through steel, "is the best they have to offer." Mocking hisses and laughter rippled again. "They call themselves Navy SEALs," he added, pausing just long enough to let the absurdity settle. "They named their elite units after aquatic mammals," one warlord snorted. "Perhaps they intend to splash at us," another wheezed, gripping its side in amusement. Vrel-Tak let the laughter crest and fade. Then he turned to his tacticians. "Deploy the initial spearhead. Standard orbital suppression. 10,000 units. We will crush their resistance before they know the battle has begun." "Coordinates?" his adjutant asked. Vrel-Tak flicked a finger toward the Earth's western continent. "Begin in their green zone, their largest jungles. Eliminate any outliers. Find their ghosts and drag them into the light." By the time the command was relayed, the ships were already descending. Across the sky of the Amazon basin, the air split with thunderless booms as Dominion warships pierced the clouds, trailing streaks of blue fire. Pods rained down in precise trajectories, carving scars through the canopy and slamming into the soil with seismic force. Each one cracked open like a mechanical seed, releasing squads of armored soldiers, 8-foot monstrosities clad in biomechanical exosuits, their faces hidden behind breathing masks, their weapons integrated into their forearms like claws. To them, it was routine. To Earth, it was the apocalypse. But not for everyone. In the dense hush beneath the jungle's ceiling, one man moved between shadows like he belonged to them. Face streaked in camouflage, body wrapped in mud-slick fabric, he breathed with the trees. Each step was placed with surgical quiet. Each movement mirrored the habits of the predators around him. His rifle rested in his arms, held not with urgency, but with familiarity, an extension of muscle and will. His name had once mattered. It had been shouted in barracks, whispered in briefing rooms. But now, that name lived only in classified logs, buried under black ink and digital smears. The only word that still applied was Reaper. He lay flat in a thicket overlooking a newly formed Dominion patrol route, eyes locked behind a scope. 6 alien soldiers moved in diamond formation, scanning with sensors and flares. They didn't know the jungle. Not truly. They walked where the ground squelched. They ignored the bird calls that had suddenly gone silent. They broke branches as they passed, as though the jungle didn't notice. Reaper noticed everything. He had been here since the first pods fell. His team, Bravo Echo 6, had been embedded for recon and early response. The initial barrage took out their satellite uplink, then their air support, then the team itself. 8 men and women, each trained to vanish, fight, and survive. All dead within 72 hours. All but him. He hadn't run. He had disappeared. The first kill had been fast, a clean shot through an alien's neck joint from tree perch. The others took longer. He learned their formations, their weak spots, the rhythm of their patrols. He marked every drop zone, mapped every ridge and gorge. He learned how far their sensors could reach, how they rotated, how they thought. He made them think they were alone, but he never was. Now, he watched them walk into his trap. The rear soldier's foot snagged a nearly invisible tripline. A delayed release thermal spike ignited beneath him, sending a jet of liquefied heat upward, severing his spine. Before the others could react, Reaper's rifle coughed 3 times, muffled cracks that took out the squad leader, the point man, and one on the flank. The remaining 2 spun, opening fire wildly, plasma bolts turning trees into vapor. But they hit nothing. Reaper was already gone. He relocated 100 yards northeast and vanished into a vine-twisted gully, heart steady, breath even. He didn't smile. There was no joy in this. Only purpose. In the Dominion's forward command tent, data feeds blinked in confused silence. The squad's vitals had flatlined in under 4 seconds. No enemy signatures detected. No comms logs. Just the sudden loss of contact and the blip of mission failure. Vrel-Tak narrowed his eyes at the report. Another patrol? His officer asked. 4 squads in 2 days, the commander replied. No patterns. No survivors. His adjutant adjusted the map. Possibly a resistance cell? No, Vrel-Tak said, tapping the screen with one talon. Too precise. Too clean. This is a professional. His officer hesitated. But they have no orbital support left. Their nations are in disarray. Their infrastructure is. He doesn't need infrastructure. Vrel-Tak leaned closer to the map, as if he could peer through it. This one needs only air to breathe and ground to kill on. Reaper cleaned his rifle beneath a canvas tarp he'd salvaged from an old expedition site. Rain pattered above, the canopy catching most of it. He worked methodically, wiping each part, reassembling the bolt, double-checking the scope. Beside him sat 3 Dominion helmets, taken from the dead. He lined them up carefully, not as trophies, but as reminders. He activated the Dominion communicator he'd stripped from a fallen officer. He tuned it, just enough to catch snippets of panic. Unit 8 gone. Commander ordered fallback. Some kind of phantom. He turned it off. Noise didn't matter. Their fear was beginning to spread. That was the first weapon. Before the bullets. Before the blades. Fear made soldiers hesitate. Hesitation killed. He ate cold protein paste and rain-caught water. Slept with one eye half open. Dreamed of nothing. Above the jungle, Vrel-Tak watched the storm roll in from the eastern horizon. His claws tapped the armrest of his command chair. Behind him, his officers whispered of anomalies. Of a human with no name. Of ghosts. I want him found, Vrel-Tak said, not looking back. And when you find him, you don't shoot him. You report. I want to see the thing that bleeds my army. And deep beneath the canopy, Reaper waited. Not hiding. Hunting. Rain fell in sheets, a constant hiss against the broad jungle leaves. It soaked alien armor, filled depressions in the ground, and clung to the skin of the man moving through it. Reaper felt the cold slide down his back as he crawled beneath the roots of a gnarled fig tree. He didn't shiver. He didn't breathe fast. Every movement was calculated. Every breath measured. His eyes scanned ahead, watching for motion in the shadows. A Dominion squad passed by 20 meters from his position, unaware. Their armor pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins. They'd adjusted their patrol formations, no longer striding arrogantly through the jungle. Now they crept in tight formations, weapons always raised, heads snapping at the smallest sound. They had learned something: fear. Reaper watched the rear soldier, the straggler. Always the weak point. This one was younger by the twitch of his movements. The helmet turned for just a second, distracted by a rustle in the leaves. A wire tightened, a trap Reaper had laid the night before. The soldier was yanked off his feet, disappearing into the canopy in a blur of motion. A muffled crunch followed. The others whirled, weapons firing wildly into the jungle, green plasma scorching trees, slicing vines. But the jungle absorbed their panic. They found nothing. No trace of their comrade. Only a smear of dark blood on the bark, and silence pressing in like a weight. Above them, Reaper was already gone. In the Dominion command ship hovering in low orbit, Commander Vrel-Tak leaned over a tactical display. The map was peppered with crimson dots, losses. They were irregular, scattered, nonsensical. No pattern, no logic. Patrols vanished without radio contact. Equipment left untouched. Sensors blacked out. This is not warfare, Vrel-Tak growled. This is stalking. The strategist beside him tapped the screen. We've deployed 65 units. 23 have gone dark. We estimate an enemy force of 1. Vrel-Tak interrupted. This is not an army. This is one. The strategist hesitated. That would be statistically impossible. Then your statistics are irrelevant. He turned away from the screen. You don't defeat predators with numbers. You hunt them with bait. He issued new orders. Below, in the jungle, Reaper found the bait easily. A Dominion soldier strapped to a tree, bleeding from shallow wounds, moaning just loudly enough to be heard from a distance. Around him, energy nets had been woven into the underbrush. Sniper drones hovered high in the canopy. Motion mines pulsed beneath the soil. Reaper didn't approach. Instead, he watched from high in the trees through an infrared lens, counting the drones, mapping their coverage arcs, analyzing mine placement. Everything was precise. Too precise. Like a grid waiting to catch a ghost. He circled twice, climbing through the trees like a shadow. Hours passed. The soldier below sobbed now, no longer moaning for effect. Reaper watched him die slowly. Not out of cruelty, but calculation. When the soldier finally went still, the drones retreated. The trap reset. The jungle exhaled. That night, the Dominion camp burned. He struck from 3 angles. First, he triggered a mine using a heat-simulating drone of his own design, cobbled together from scrap and parts harvested from alien tech. When it exploded, troops rushed to intercept. Then he sniped a sentry on the western perimeter. A perfect shot, clean through the helmet, the body falling silently into the firelight. Panic rippled through the ranks. Orders blared through the comms, but the voices were unsure, brittle. That's when Reaper struck the eastern fuel depot, 2 plasma grenades he'd rigged into time-delayed traps. The fireball lit the sky. By the time the Dominion reorganized, he was gone. Again, one officer was found hanging upside down from a tree at dawn. Still alive, but speechless, eyes wide with horror. Clutched in his hand was a strip of fabric, standard issue from Earth's Navy SEALs. A message. They began calling him the Green Phantom. Vrel-Tak reviewed the footage with clenched fists. His command was unraveling. Dominion soldiers were trained for planetary assaults, for shock and awe tactics, not prolonged jungle survival, not psychological warfare, and certainly not a ghost who killed without warning and vanished without trace. He convened his senior officers. We will flush him out, he announced. Deploy thermal fog to blanket the region. Smoke him from the trees. Burn the forest if we must. But Commander, no more excuses. Back on the ground, Reaper listened to the new orders through a hacked Dominion helmet he kept hidden in a tree hollow. They were getting desperate. He smiled slightly, the first real expression in days. They'd stop laughing now. He moved before the thermal fogs rolled in, adjusting his position, sabotaging power relays, cutting comms towers with surgical precision. His route wasn't random. He moved toward their satellite dish array, a critical relay hub linking ground units with the orbital fleet. If he took it out, they'd be blind. Reaching the relay took 2 days. He survived on protein paste and river water, sleeping in 20-minute intervals. The humidity pressed against his lungs. The jungle teemed with life, but none of it touched him. Even the predators sensed he was something unnatural here. The dish array sat atop a plateau, surrounded by a cleared zone patrolled by aerial drones. Reaper studied the layout for hours, sketching positions in the dirt. He marked guard rotations, wind patterns, the timing of patrol shifts. He waited until a storm rolled in. Lightning split the sky as he made his move, crawling through mud, his body covered in charcoal and jungle rot to scatter heat signatures. Rain masked his movements. Thunder drowned the sound of his breathing. The first guard fell silently, throat cut. The second electrocuted via a rigged plasma battery. The third never saw the combat knife coming. Inside the control hub, He planted charges along the core conduits. Plasma batteries set to overload. A 10-minute timer. Enough time to vanish. As he slipped into the trees again, the array exploded. A thunderous roar cracked the night sky. Dominion officers screamed into dead calms. On board the orbiting fleet, data streams vanished. Surveillance blacked out. The jungle swallowed everything. And in the center of it, one man breathed out and let the darkness take him. Later that night, Vrel-Tak received a transmission, an unauthorized ping from stolen device. A short video feed. The image was shaky. A Dominion helmet hanging from a tree, a combat knife through its visor. Below it, written in alien blood on bark, one word. Hunted. Vrel-Tak stared at the screen. He finally understood. This wasn't a skirmish. This wasn't a rebellion. This was a lesson. And he was the student. Lightning slashed the sky as the command shuttle descended, turbines roaring against the jungle's defiant silence. Commander Vrel-Tak stepped onto Earth soil with a scowl etched deep into his scaled face. His ceremonial armor had been replaced by something heavier, sleeker, meant for survival, not appearance. Beside him, the elite Black Flame commandos moved in sync, their blackened armor absorbing light, their weapons humming with coiled plasma. These were the best hunters the Dominion had ever bred. They had ended rebellions across galaxies. They had never failed. Not once. Vrel-Tak gazed at the dense jungle ahead, smoke still curling from the destroyed relay station in the distance. This is no longer a patrol operation, he growled. This is a purge. The commandos fanned out, sweeping in calculated grids. They burned patches of forest, deployed motion drones, and laid resonance mines that could detonate from mere footsteps. But Reaper was already watching them. Hidden beneath the roots of a massive ceiba tree. He noted their formations, the cadence of their movements, the way they paused every 20 paces to scan the treetops. They weren't like the others. No nervous tics. No panic in their steps. These ones were professionals. But so was he. He waited until nightfall, where vision became distorted and nerves wore thin. The jungle was never quiet. Monkeys screeched, frogs howled, insects hissed, but tonight it fell off. Too much tension, like even the animals knew something hunted just outside the line of firelight. A sentry strayed, just a step too far. He scanned the foliage with his rifle scope, unaware of the man hanging upside down behind him from a branch. A flick of the wrist, a wire loop tightened, and the sentry disappeared without a sound. Reaper dragged the body through the treetops and left it hanging above the main path, the Dominion emblem carved into its armor, crossed out with a bloody X. Vrel-Tak found the body within the hour. "This is a message," one of the commandos said. "No," Vrel-Tak replied coldly. "This is bait. He wants us to act emotionally." But something inside him twisted. The next ambush came at dawn. A drone unit went offline mid-sweep. When the recovery team arrived, they found its camera feed scratched into a tree trunk, an image of one of their own commandos falling, a blur of movement behind him. Just before the feed cut to black, a single phrase blinked in Terran glyphs. "I see you." The commandos tightened their perimeter. One took off his helmet to wipe sweat from his eyes. An invisible dart pierced his temple before he could blink. Reaper reclaimed the dart minutes later. Silent. Clean. Every tactic they used, he countered. Every shift in their approach, he anticipated. He didn't fight like a soldier. He fought like the jungle itself. Unpredictable, silent, absolute. Vrel-Tak began to understand what the others had feared. This wasn't just a human. This was an apex predator born of violence, trained in death, and forged in a world that refused to be tamed. For the first time, Vrel-Tak felt something strange behind his ribs, uncertainty. The commandos grew restless. Some began whispering tales they'd heard, rumors from earlier patrols. They spoke of a ghost painted in mud, of eyes that watched from every shadow. One claimed to have heard his own name whispered in the wind before a plasma bolt vaporized the squad beside him. Vrel-Tak shut down such talk with threats and orders, but he knew morale was cracking. Their prey wasn't just killing them. He was breaking them from within. Reaper studied them from a cliff above their camp. He'd been watching for hours, waiting for the right moment. He was tired, bone-deep fatigue clawing at his limbs, but focused. Every kill had purpose. Every move was designed to tip the scales further toward collapse. He didn't want to kill all of them. Not yet. He wanted the last one to remember. The moment came during a storm. Rain hammered the canopy, and thunder muted the soft crunch of Reaper's boots against the dirt. He bypassed outer sensors using a stolen Dominion wrist pad, slid between two tents, silently disabled 3 sentries, slipped into the central tent like a ghost riding wind. Inside, Vrel-Tak stood over a tactical map, unaware, until Reaper pressed the knife to his throat. "No armor this time," Reaper whispered. Vrel-Tak spun, drawing his weapon, but Reaper was already moving. A flash of steel, a crack of bone. They collided, weapons flying from their hands, fists and claws lashing in brutal silence. The fight wasn't elegant. It was primal. Mud-slick fists struck hardened scales. Claws scraped flesh. Blood splashed the walls. Reaper ducked a swipe and drove his shoulder into Vrel-Tak's gut, slamming him into a console. The Dominion commander snarled, headbutted him, then drove a knee into Reaper's ribs. Reaper grunted and spat blood. "Is this the best Earth can offer?" Vrel-Tak hissed. Reaper grabbed a shard of broken display glass and slashed across the alien's face. "No," he growled. "I'm what's left." Vrel-Tak roared and lunged again, but Reaper dodged low, sweeping his legs. The alien crashed to the floor. Reaper mounted him, delivering 3 rapid blows before wrenching the commander's arm into a lock and dislocating the joint. Then he stopped. He leaned close, breathing hard, eyes burning. "I want you alive," he whispered. "I want you to crawl back to your fleet. I want you to tell them." Vrel-Tak gasped, blood seeping from his mouth. "Tell them what? That Earth doesn't bow. That we don't run. That if you set foot on our soil, we bury you in it." He left the commander broken, but breathing. Outside, the camp was chaos. Fires burned. Alarms blared. Reaper moved through the shadows, blending into the confusion. He vanished into the trees, unseen, unheard. By morning, Dominion ships began emergency evac protocols. The jungle remained silent. The rain fell once more. But every soldier left behind knew the truth. They hadn't come to conquer Earth. They'd walked into a hunter's domain. Smoke coiled upward from the blackened soil where Dominion camps once stood. The jungle, wounded but alive, had begun its slow reclaiming. Vines curled over shattered drones. Roots dug beneath alien steel. Birds returned to trees that had shuddered with fire, their calls echoing like the world exhaling at last. Where boots had marched, there was only mud. Where fleets had hovered, there was only sky. From the highest point in the basin, Reaper watched the last transport breach the cloud layer. It shimmered briefly, then vanished into the stars. The warships were gone. The sounds of war had faded. Only silence remained, rich, deep, and whole. He sat alone, knees bent, rifle across his lap, body streaked with dried blood and jungle grime. His knuckles were split, his breathing slow. Around him, the earth whispered in leaves and drifting pollen. He didn't smile. He didn't relax. Victory wasn't a feeling. It was a truth carved in flesh and ash. He pressed a hand to the fresh scar beneath his ribs. The fight with Vrel-Tak had left its mark, but pain meant he was still alive. And that was more than most could say. Far above, the Dominion's fleet drifted in silent orbit, waiting for orders that would not come. Their command structure fractured. Vrel-Tak had returned, dragged aboard by his remaining Black Flame elites, his body battered, his spirit cracked. He spoke only once in the debrief, a single sentence rasped through broken fangs. "Do not return." His words were recorded, broadcast quietly, then archived by Dominion historians under restricted status. No public statement was made, no declaration of defeat, but orders went out. Earth was no longer a viable acquisition. Resources would be found elsewhere. Risk now outweighed reward. Reaper's name was never spoken. His face never identified. But within the ranks of the Dominion, a new designation emerged, unauthorized, whispered only in darkened barracks and tight comm channels. Spectre of Terra. A cautionary tale for young soldiers. a shadow they trained to avoid but never could. On Earth, there was no celebration, no parades, no headlines. The world was still reeling from orbital bombardments, economic collapse, and the billions lost in the first wave. Governments restructured, civilians mourned. But beneath the grief, something burned, a cold, bright ember, a new understanding of what humanity truly was when cornered. In the shattered ruins of a military base, a general stood before a small group of officers, eyes sunken with fatigue. He clicked on a screen and showed the footage retrieved from the wreckage of the Dominion camp. Images of one man's war against an empire. This is what stopped them, the general said. Not fleets, not technology. One soldier, alone. The officers were silent. No statues will be built. No medals awarded. He won't be found. But we'll remember. Every training manual will carry his legacy. Every unit will study his tactics. This is how we fight now. Reaper walked deeper into the jungle. He left no trail, no beacon. He carried only his gear, his wounds, and the silence of the dead. He had no destination, only a direction, away. Somewhere beyond the canopy, satellites stirred. Data streams realigned. Communications resumed. But he didn't care. His war was finished. Let the others rebuild. Let them decide what came next. He was done being found. But legends don't sleep. They echo. In Dominion academies, recruits now simulate Terra conditions, extreme pressure drills designed to mimic jungle warfare. They study asymmetric ghost tactics, trying to predict how one man dismantled a military operation. None ever passed those simulations. Not fully. Veterans of the Earth campaign refuse to speak of the jungle. Some refuse to be stationed on biological planets altogether. Psych teams record spikes in paranoia, insomnia, and silence. When pressed, they repeat the same phrase. We were never alone down there. On fringe worlds, bounty hunters whisper about a human who vanished into the green. Some claim he died. Others say he's still out there, hunting, watching, waiting. Reaper moved through shadow, letting the earth clean him. He passed through abandoned camps, now overgrown. He touched the trees where he'd bled, where he'd waited, where he'd killed. Not out of regret, not out of nostalgia, just to feel the ground again, to confirm it was still his. A week passed before he reached a hidden cache, one of many buried across the continent. Inside, dry clothes, food, medical supplies, an encrypted satellite uplink. He patched himself up in silence, sewed torn flesh, wrapped cracked ribs, drank electrolyte paste. No celebration, no relief, just function. He activated the uplink. A green light blinked once. The message was short. Area secure. Hostile forces withdrawn. Status active. He didn't include his name. He didn't need to. The message would find its way, and those who understood would know what it meant. In an underground bunker beneath Colorado, a commander received the ping. She stared at the transmission, unmoving, then nodded once. She closed the feed. No reply. She told her aide. He knows. Outside, snow fell. Reaper buried the uplink beneath a mound of leaves and crushed it beneath his boot. Then he walked into the dark, boots pressing deep into wet earth. He didn't look back. Somewhere in the Dominion's outer territories, a young officer trained in jungle tactics failed her simulation for the third time. Her instructor, a scarred veteran of the Earth campaign, sighed and placed a heavy hand on her shoulder. You can't outfight it, he said. Outfight what? She asked. The myth, he said. The man who made a jungle his graveyard and sent an empire running. Do you think he's real? She asked. The instructor didn't answer. Instead, he turned off the simulation and walked away, leaving her alone with the flickering images of a ghost in the trees. In the jungle, Reaper vanished. Not because he needed to hide, but because he'd already shown the galaxy what a single human could do. And now, he simply chose to disappear.